All right.
And then I'm also confused because on my screen, it has a record button.
On your Zoom screen, but I have to give you permission for that to happen. But I am going to ask if you can you record?
I don't know.
If I give you permission, I think you can. I'm going to make a recording to the cloud, but in case, I liked having a redundant recording in case there are any issues. So I'm going to go back into Zoom.
And I kind of sort of think the fact that it's streaming on YouTube means the recording is automatically going to be made there, but let's have the redundancy.
Yeah.
So I did not have to refresh my page, and we are now on screen on YouTube.
All right. Whoa.
So whatever you
You're
did,
welcome shortly. So it worked. That's good. Give me 1 second. Let me just give you.
But I think joy is necessary in terms of maintaining the self, making sure that you don't fall too far down into despair. And so I love to laugh. I love comedy shows. I like a certain kind of comedy. And if the comedy isn't up to par, I'm out. So I love laughing. I love profanity, believe it or not. I just really love to laugh, and I love my laugh. Like sometimes when I hear it, I remember I was at an event in the East Village in Manhattan, and I got home and somebody called me and they said, "Were you at the show?" And I said, "Yeah, I didn't see you." And they said, "No, I didn't see you either, but I heard you." And that's just the way I laugh. So it was just wonderful for somebody to say, "Oh, it's 300 people here, but we heard that. We heard you." So I just think that's important for us to find ways to make each other laugh.
Absolutely.
Here. It's for me, there's joy in like this wasn't always true, but like in trying and being with people that are trying to make a difference. And because for me, the reality is that the struggle is active. Like the struggle in terms of being a person with a Black body and a female body is very active. And so if that struggle is active, then I'm willing to put in a little bit of struggle to see what I can do for like some ease or connection. So there's something about the fact that so much of I'm in a place now where so much of my life is dedicated towards trying things out, seeing what can happen, what can you do. I realized too that like, especially around COVID-19, and I had shared this on Facebook the other day, that there's an interview with Dr. David Williams, who's a sociologist, and he's particularly looking at social determinants of health and the impact of racism and oppression. And the way that he talks about it is that like COVID-19 is like the perfect storm, because it means that because Black bodies are the ones that are doing the work. They have the lowest amount of income, therefore they have hourly jobs, so therefore they have to do the work. Because of the impact of structural racism, they're actually more vulnerable. And so that's why the contraction rate is bad, the death rate is even worse. And that these are all products of of systemic racism. Like he made the point that regardless of whatever income stream of a Black person is in America, that they still have worse outcomes health-wise. And that comes from the impact of all those little moments of inequality and of racism, all those little things, they accumulate in our bodies and they're with us. So for me, the question comes up around like, and why it is that where the joy comes in the doing and being with other people who are interested in the doing and making a choice to only be with those people. Like if you're not interested in addressing racism, then like, fuck you, I guess. So it's like,
you gotta put some heat on that word. You can't whisper that. You gotta put heat on there.
So it's just like, so it's just that like, okay, so knowing that this is true, what can I do? What can we do to like participate in actions that actually help to mediate some of those impacts? Like, which means like, you know, there was a great line in here about how like we've all become consumers. It's like pulling out of like capitalism where you can, because it does not work. It's not meant for you. It's absolutely terrible. And work and stepping towards community, like, and that's for me is where some joy is, because I can actually see the benefit of what it means to step into community, to be there for somebody and to be held by other people. Mm-hmm. You know, and I could speak during this crisis, but also just in general in my life, that I have more of those experiences. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's like very much expansive, this idea. And I think, so for me, the invitation is, if the struggle of being is real, which it is, then it's worth it in my mind to struggle with stepping into some place of like finding joy. Yeah. Just FYI, Georgette tried to join us, but there's a storm, so she doesn't have good internet. So, but she's watching.
Oh, well, I find my joy with all of you, and you know, and I've really missed you over these last few months, and you know, I want to say for the recording and for the record that all of you have been in a private session over the last few months reading My Grandmother's Hands.
Yes.
Who was the author?
Resmaa Menakem.
Resmaa Menakem. Okay. I haven't read it yet, but I do want to. But you know, I was just kind of off in La La Land for a while, which I needed to do. You know, but I definitely miss our weekly connections, and I am thrilled to be back now. I think for me, joy has always been more about people than anything else, and I think it's related to having a lot of sadness in my childhood, but I also had a lot of material things. But what it taught me was that material things don't necessarily equal happiness or joy. And so, you know, again, about what is your reason for living? What is the purpose of life? And for me, it really is about the people and the relationships and the quality of those relationships that either brings me joy or does not. I think even with feminism, or with my approach to feminism, it has something to do with wanting to improve the quality of relationships in my life. I remember I had a boyfriend, a long-term man in my life. And I remember he said to me one time, because, I'm one that always wants to talk about it, in great detail. And he was like, I don't really want to talk about it. People just, they just kind of fall into patterns. And, when you talk about it, it messes it up. And, and that was his belief. And, and he may be right. But I'd rather mess it up. I'd rather tear the house down. I'd rather break up. I'd rather destroy this motherfucker than to be in a relationship of any kind where I'm really not happy. And to me, the words are the bridge. If I can walk through these words and get you to understand what my needs are, who I am, what I'm feeling, and you can respect that and honor that and respond to that, then we can create something that for me is real and joyful and lasting and all of that. But those same relationships that can bring so much joy, can also bring so much pain when we fail to make those connections. So that's one take on joy.
Right.
And a very good one at that.
Thank you.
Yeah, Georgette says, looking good, ladies.
Hi, Georgette. Miss you.
Yeah. But we have just about 25 minutes left. Is there more on this question? We want to look at the last one?
I'd like to talk about joy some more.
Yeah.
I also get joy from painting and singing and the arts. But one thing I love, where I get a lot of joy from is there's something about being with people of color. And regardless of whether you succeeded or you failed, just the way we talk to each other about what happened and how it happened, it's just like this joy. Because I know a lot of my friends, they'll come back and they say, Kim, I can't believe you said that, and then they'll imitate something that I said, and then we just roll around laughing, and I don't take it, personally. I just know that it was something that I said. And they said, but where do you come off with the getting, saying this stuff? And my mother was like that. She would say, like, win, lose, or draw. She would say, and then what happened? Tell me what I said. And we would just repeat. And then you said to the landlord, you did like this, Mama. You said such and such and such. And we would I just love us. I think there's a part of our culture that is so warm and so loving and so funny and I think that was the wonderful thing about Langston Hughes when he wrote about Simple. It was just something about us, even in the hardship. There's this joy, there's this exuberance that sometimes I forget to notice it when it's happening. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to take more time. And I also get joy from the work. Like Leonie was saying, that sometimes, like we did something this past Sunday and we were on Zoom and it was like just 30 of us, but I just had to keep looking in their eyes and say, these are the type of people that I like working with, that they're giving up of their time. So I just think there's so many ways that we experience joy, but forget to check the box that, I had some joy today. And I forget a lot because I'm so busy thriving in one way that I forget to live, and just to stop and say, that was kind of funny. Maybe that should, so yeah, I'll stop there.
Kim, I feel like that's one of the things missing in Donald's life. Like, he strikes me as an extremely unhappy person. And, you know, I mean, we know he's a narcissist and a sociopath and all of that. And,
I was trying to figure out who Donald was.
I mean, you know, I guess.
You know Donald, like you know Barack, like, come on, Kim.
I guess he can't, you know, he can't help it. But it's clear as you watch him through this crisis that he doesn't understand what it means to us to be losing our family and friends. He doesn't understand. And it feels like he's never had that.
Mm-hmm.
I think, Michelle, it's just my thoughts, and I really think that there are people who are so excited about us dying of this disease that they dance around their apartments naked. They just so happy. I think he's
This is their joy.
I think he's one of them. I really do. I just think that we are expendable. And I think that's why I like the question on the revolution, because it says that, you know, we think that we can help each other change this country, but there are some people who are locked into this country so strong and are so happy about Donald being in office. And when you said Donald, I thought it was like a personal friend of yours. I didn't know.
Oh, he's no friend of mine.
My brain was trying to figure out, well, do I know what Donald? What Donald she talking about? Is this somebody intimate? What Donald?
I think you're right, Kim, but I think you're both right. I think you're right that there are people who are celebrating this, and I still think that it comes from their own pain that they don't have awareness of and don't know how to process. Like the fact that you can celebrate that. And it's actually not an opinion that isn't backed up, because one of the things that this Dr. Williams talked about is the fact that, like, study after study shows that, like, white people don't care what happens to Black people. Like, they literally don't care. And I think that don't care is the outcome of not being attached to their own history and not being attached to understanding that it ends up showing up and looking like a complete lack of humanity. Yeah. Talked about how 70% of the people who are wanting everything to open up, this is in the United States, they're white, they're middle class, they're salaried. They have not suffered. They have not suffered in any material way for this pandemic. The people who don't want things to open up are all working class, the ones that are on the front line, wage workers, that are concerned because they're turning and looking to their left and looking to the right and seeing, oh, my auntie has COVID and is in the hospital, or my uncle actually died of it, or whatever. Like, they're literally dealing with death every single day, right?
Yeah, and I think too, Leonie, I think we would absolutely have to throw in those ways in which institutions support that, right? So the institutions support this kind of historical, this erasure, if you will, and it's a way to maintain this mythological white innocence. And so when you enter those institutions and you speak those truths, your Black ass won't be there long, because nobody, there's a way to start, to get you out, to do the work of and
your white ass, Nicole. Your white
That's
ass.
true. And your white ass sometimes.
From the perspective of solidarity, look at Dr. Rick
You're
Wright.
conscious. That's true. If that kind of consciousness as well. So and other people of color asses, right, won't be there long. But it's so let's reframe. So if you have a critical consciousness that you're speaking to and you make known and visible, right, that you're removed because that goes against those ways in which they're constructing their own kind of institutional lore, as well as, again, this kind of these histories that people don't want to deal with. And so you're gone just like that, because what's grieving me is when I think about Sylvia Wynter and the ways in which, and so many Black academics here, and I'm speaking of the diaspora as well with Winter, but with Black studies programs, and we talk about what's happening at these institutions, and that the Black studies programs are overwhelmingly like the first ones that you begin to gut and cut. Wow, there's just, that just tells us, where we are. We are still in the midst of these incomplete freedom projects.
Oh, yeah.
The struggle for liberation is ongoing, and folks better decide which side they're on. And I don't know if it's age, but I'm with you, Leonie.
Yeah.
I don't have to be in the company of wolves any longer. I mean, what I'm saying is, I'm making my politics well known, and that I don't have time, because to me, this is a very serious matter.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. The thing that I think is which is why I appreciate that we're looking at this book now, because we don't have to this has been true in why it is that like I'm doing the work that I'm doing, and like why I've created the organizations that I've created, and why I'm creating POC spaces, is because this book speaks to exactly what the remedy is. We don't have to give our time, energy, and attention to what's happening with white folks. We should be moving towards each other as people of color to give our time, energy, and attention to seeing what we can generate for ourselves. Because we can't sit around and wait for racism to go away, right? So, but we're not helpless. Even though we're oppressed and our lives are at stake, we're not helpless, and we can be stronger if we work together as people of color, right? So it's up to us, which is why I love that we read My Grandmother's Hands book, because it's like, it helps me to like really commit to stepping towards other people of color, and to be like, this is, you can be my sister. We can work out. I am interested in your liberation as well as my own. I'm not going to enter into a conversation about, Asian folks, now they know what racism is, and now they're getting all this attention, and no attention has come to Black folk. I'm not doing that. That is such a white lens. I will not do it. Right? So, shall we squeeze in that last question?
Yeah,
let's go for it.
All right.
Yeah.
Who would like to read?
I don't mind if no one else.
Not seeing anyone else. Go ahead, please.
Okay. So the page 30, the Roman numerals. And coming to terms with the incorporation of disease, struggling to overthrow the internal colonial and pro-racist loyalties, color, hue, hair, caste, with the household power, perversities engaged in under the guise of personal relationships, accommodation to and collaboration with self-ambush and amnesia and murder, and coming to grips with those false awakenings too that give us ease as we substitute the militant mouth for radical politics, delaying over true coming of age as committed, competent, principled combatants. Interested in what you make of this quote. I think what she is speaking here is a work of coming to clarity of politics that I acknowledge, that acknowledges the distractions and lessons. Oh, I'm sorry, you guys. My paper cut off here. Hold on. Let me read it again.
It's okay. We can help you out.
Interested in what you make of this quote, I think what she is speaking to here is the work of coming to a clarity of politics that acknowledges the distractions and lenses, keeping our personal vision of politics muddled. And B, how's the reading of the book have been part of our collective journey as a circle supported a clarity to your politics as it relates to feminism, racism, and oppression? Wow. Great question. You did that, Leonie, like the youngsters say, you marked that.
I like marked up so many things in this book because like I wish that I had it, known of it and read it when I was younger, because I've been complaining my whole life about white feminism.
Not the first.
Just like, if I hear one more thing from these Gloria Steinem loving blah, blah, blah. So I just like marked up this thing. Honestly, I was just like, I'm only doing 4 questions because.
Yeah.
Anyone want to kick off this particular discussion?
I'll be honest. I love this. I love how Barbara brings this to us, and I keep thinking about the lesson, her short story, and wow, Barbara is just fire. But I'll be honest, you all. I mean, here's just a slight aside. I got caught up in the semantics here because I'm trying to differentiate or understand how Barbara differentiates the radical from the militant, right? So because, and I think I've been like sitting with that question and sleeping on it, anticipating, you all kind of shedding light, because for me, I guess the radical is the militant, or I don't know how to really take those two or unsettle those. My definitions are perhaps off, but I don't know the degrees of, how she says, substituting one for the other that gives us ease as we substitute the militant mouth for radical politics. I guess I need to go back anyway and think.
How I read that, Nicole?
Yeah, how are you reading?
I read the militant mouth as it's easy to talk shit. It's easy to scream out in pain, to demand action now. Like what's going through my head now is Black Lives Matter. We got to do something right now.
Right.
And again, as I was talking earlier about not appreciating the complexity of a situation, and therefore making mistakes, skipping steps, and ultimately not getting the job done. And the work of a radical politic, in my mind, is the work that gets the job done.
That makes sense. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, that question, the difference kind of lies in kind of what came in this idea that the militant would be to hold on to a perspective that is a Black perspective and not move toward. The radical is in forming connections with other people and other women, because that's not is what is expected. The militant is expected. This idea of it's very individualized, it's not towards the collective, or it's only
it's lashing out in anger.
Yeah, it's like and the radical vision is one around togetherness, right?
A solidarity, okay.
Yeah.
I think my framework, though, I was thinking of the Panthers. And I'm like, but there was absolutely an engagement. It was an internationalist engagement. the Panthers, but I don't know anyone who wouldn't call them militant. So I see what you're saying, but I think so, but my trajectory is limited, because if I'm only looking at the Panthers, if I look at kind of other militant moves, so yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
It could be like the fact that the civil rights movement had a law, was largely nonviolent, would be a radical position as opposed to a militant one.
Right, absolutely. Still radical, yeah.
I think a lifetime commitment to the struggle is a radical.
That's a positionality.
You know, I think it was Kim, you know, that was saying something earlier about, you know, we've seen these games before. It's like they keep running the same playbook.
Yeah.
And, you know, we know they're going to do everything possible to crush us, to break our connections, to kill us. You know, that's the playbook.
Right.
So given that, you know, or, you know, as you all have heard me talk so many times about the 500-year plan, how do you stay committed to a vision in the face of all of that?
That makes sense. Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. And even when I'm thinking through like what's radical about queer women of color and trans women, their visibility, that is always already engaged in a radical politics. So that does make sense. Okay, that has helped me a lot, because I'll be honest, you all, and I do think is my framework, because I kept thinking, well, the militant and the radical, but okay, that helps. Thank y'all.
I think for me, I need to look at this more as an umbrella with many spokes. That there are going to be issues that are Black and African American, and I need to be radical and militant in that space.
Yeah.
Then there are going to be opportunities where I need to move out of my own camp and move into the kitchen of somebody Filipino or Latino or a Latin person or whatever. But I cannot undermine, or I cannot think that because police officers are killing Black men and women, shooting them down dead, that the Black issue is identical to every other issue.
Right.
It is not. It is not. But that does not mean that I should fight the Black issue by myself. But if there is a day when I have to fight by myself, I am going to do that. So that for me, I am both radical and militant. And so,
come on, Kim.
I like the idea of people of color, third world people, having an umbrella where we all have a spoke in it. And this way, when the rains come and the storms come, we are all protected because there's no rip, there's no terror. But there's going to be times where there's an issue that when you look at the prison system, that y'all going to have my back too. So all I'm saying is I think that this is a wonderful concept, and that we all look at how we got to be white and Black to begin with, and you can kind of see that it's ludicrous.
Yeah.
And unpack that. But as we're unpacking that, if it's my son that's being shot at, then I need y'all to come down and be with me when I am protesting the fact that they're killing Black bodies at a rate that they're not killing other bodies, other bodies of color. So there are a couple of nuances and differences, but ultimately my goal would be is as we continue to work together, the differences may be in the eye of the oppressor, but not in the eye of our own agency.
Yeah, that makes sense, Kim. Kim, just come through, Kim. That was just like, bada bing, bada bing. Come on, Kim. Come on.
I'm just going to read what Gio said. Gio said, Great exploration of those terms in this context. The visual. So it's resonating with her.
All right, all right.
So I wanted to, I have an idea of how we can close, and it's an invitation, so you could say no to it, but I hope that you consider it, which is that I was wondering if we can take turns in reading the poem.
Come on.
Poem that is there. And I thought we could just literally take turns reading each paragraph, just so that we can bring our voices in.
There's several poems. Which one
The
specifically?
bridge poem
The
from
bridge
tonight's
poem.
reading.
Which poem? Okay.
XIII.
Yeah, so it's 33. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that. Before we close, could I just say, so
Yeah.
Nicole, I think you are signed up to facilitate next week.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And I'm going to do the week after. And then I think Georgette is going to do June 9th.
Okay.
And so Kim, if you want to take June 16th, that's open. Otherwise, we could wait until next week when hopefully Georgette will be here and, you know, and push the schedule a little bit more then.
June 16th is fine for me.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Great.
it's happy birthday to you, right, Leonie?
Tomorrow, but yes.
Tomorrow. All right.
Oh, happy birthday.
Early birthday, Leonie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I like that way of closing, Leonie. I love it. So.
Okay. Do you want to start off with the first paragraph, Michelle? And then we'll just, I'm just going to go in the order that I see. So it will be Michelle, myself, Nicole, and Kim, and we'll just keep going in that round.
Okay.
Until we're done.
This is the bridge poem by Kate Rushin. I've had enough. I'm sick of seeing and touching both sides of things. Sick of being the damn bridge for everybody.
Nobody can talk to anybody without me, right?
I explain my mother to my father to my little sister to my brother, to the white feminists to the black church folks, the black church folks to the ex-hippies to the black separatists to the artists to my friends' parents.
Then I've got to explain myself to everybody. I do more translating than the goddamn UN.
Forget it. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of filling in your gaps.
Sick of being your insurance against the isolation of your self-imposed limitations. Sick of being the crazy at your holiday dinners. Sick of being the odd one at your Sunday brunches. Sick of being the sole Black friend to 34 individual white people.
Find another connection to the rest of the world. Find something else to make you legitimate. Find some other way to be political and hip. I will not be the bridge to your womanhood, your manhood, your humanness.
I'm sick of reminding you not to close off too tight for too long. I'm sick of mediating with your worst self on behalf of your better selves.
I am sick of having to remind you to breathe before you suffocate your own full self.
Forget it. Stretch or drown, evolve or die.
The bridge I must be is the bridge to my own power. I must translate my own fears, mediate my own weaknesses.
I must be the bridge to nowhere but my true self, and then I will be useful.
Beautiful. Woo.
Yeah, I like it. I like that.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Can I just say one story before we end? I was just it's not gonna mess up the flow. I was at a writers group, and this person read the story about how he had never heard of racism when he was a boy, and there were no racial slurs where he grew up in New York. And so he said that when someone as an adult called him a racist, he didn't understand. So now the group of white people and me were to give him feedback. And so I just said to him, I said, who's your audience? Who is it you're talking to? Because I'm trying to understand, if you were reading this to Black people, you'd get a different response than reading it to white people. So Leonie, I always think of you and say, what would Leonie say?
Thank you.
And they didn't like that response. So a good thing I didn't bring the Kim.
There you go. Excellent. So I want to thank the people who joined us for the live casting of this. There'll be a video that's posted. I know there were some problems with the live cast, so we'll post a video up shortly. And thank you. Join us next week when Nicole will be moderating, and we'll be taking a look at some of the future chapters of the book. And bye-bye for now.
Bye.